The Trans-Pacific Airways first-class lounge at LAX was an oasis of engineered tranquility, a world away from the frantic energy of the main terminal just beyond its frosted glass doors. Soft, indirect lighting gleamed on polished chrome and dark wood. Plush leather armchairs were arranged in discreet groupings, occupied by figures who exuded an air of quiet importance. Laptops open, phones pressed to ears, conversations conducted in low, confident tones. The scent in the air was a carefully curated blend of expensive cologne, gourmet coffee, and the subtle aroma of privilege. In a single armchair tucked into a quieter corner, Keanu Reeves sat, seemingly absorbed in a worn paperback novel, though his eyes occasionally lifted to observe the curated world around him. He was dressed as usual, in a uniform of determined anonymity. Well-worn dark jeans, a soft, plain black t-shirt, and over it, a simple dark linen jacket whose quality was apparent only upon close inspection. His familiar weathered boots rested on the floor. No flashy watch, no designer logos shouted his status. He was simply a man waiting for a flight, albeit one who happened to be one of the most recognizable faces on the planet. He valued these moments of observation, these glimpses into lives lived outside the bubble of Hollywood, the subtle tensions, the unspoken hierarchies, the masks people wore. He watched a businessman across the room snap orders into his phone, his face tight with impatience. He saw a woman meticulously apply makeup, checking her reflection in a compact mirror as if preparing for a performance. He noticed the practiced ease with which the lounge staff catered to every whim, their smiles professional yet distant. It was a world built on appearances, on projecting a certain image, an image Keanu himself often felt at odds with. Despite being a central figure in the industry that perpetuated it, he sighed inwardly, turning a page in his book, seeking refuge in the fictional world for a few more minutes. When the boarding announcement for his flight to London echoed softly through the lounge, Keanu closed his book, slipped it into his equally unassuming backpack, and stood up. He stretched slightly, feeling the familiar stiffness from hours spent in various forms of transit. He joined the short queue at the gate, nodding politely to the attendant who checked his documents. As he walked down the jet bridge, the transition from the quiet lounge to the humming interior of the aircraft felt like stepping into another carefully constructed reality. He was greeted at the door by Sophie, a young flight attendant with a warm, genuine smile. "Welcome aboard, Mr. Reeves. Your seat is 2A, right this way by the window." Keanu thanked her, appreciating her straightforward kindness. He navigated the aisle of the spacious first-class cabin, found his seat, and stowed his backpack under the seat in front, keeping only his book and a bottle of water with him. He settled into the wide, comfortable seat, grateful for the privacy and the long journey ahead, a chance to disconnect. Just as he was fastening his seatbelt, Arthur Finch boarded, talking loudly into his phone, oblivious to the quiet cabin atmosphere. Finch, a man likely in his early 50s, radiated an aura of self-importance. His navy suit was impeccably tailored, likely Savile Row. His shoes gleamed with an expensive shine. A heavy gold watch adorned his wrist. "Absolutely unacceptable," Finch boomed into the phone. "Tell Johnson if the deal isn't on my desk by the time I land in London, the entire partnership is off. I don't care about his excuses." He snapped the phone shut with a final flourish and began looking for his seat number. His eyes scanned the cabin, dismissing other passengers, until they landed on Keanu in seat 2A. Finch checked his own boarding pass. 2B. He frowned, his gaze sweeping over Keanu's simple attire. The jeans, the t-shirt, the slightly worn jacket. Finch's internal categorization system immediately flagged Keanu as out of place. This couldn't possibly be his seatmate in first class, could it? Perhaps an airline employee or someone who'd use points? He approached the seat, his expensive briefcase hitting the side of Keanu's armrest without apology, as he maneuvered to put it in the overhead bin. "Excuse me," Finch said, his tone sharp, laced with disdain. "Are you quite sure you're in the right seat? This is the first-class cabin, you know." Keanu looked up calmly from the window, meeting Finch's arrogant gaze without flinching. "Yes, I'm sure." "Seat 2A, he replied evenly, gesturing slightly to the indicator above the seat. Finch scoffed softly, unconvinced. He settled himself heavily into seat 2B, pointedly taking up as much space as possible, arranging his jacket just so. Remarkable, Finch muttered, loud enough for Keanu to hear clearly. The standards seem to be slipping these days. One encounters all sorts in these cabins now. Keanu ignored the deliberate slight, turning back to the window as the plane began to push back from the gate. He closed his eyes, hoping his seatmate would take the hint and lapse into silence. But Arthur Finch wasn't accustomed to being ignored. He thrived on attention, on demonstrating his status. The presence of this quiet, simply dressed man next to him felt like a personal affront, a disruption to the carefully constructed hierarchy he believed in. He felt a need to establish dominance, to put this imposter in his place. "Traveling to London on business?" Finch asked after a few moments of silence, his voice carrying a false casualness. Keanu opened his eyes, turning slightly. "Something like that," he replied vaguely, hoping to end the conversation there. "A mix of work and seeing people." Finch seized on the vagueness. "Ah, seeing people," he echoed with a smirk. "Must be quite the trip then, flying first class for just seeing people." "Lucky you." The implication was clear. Someone like Keanu couldn't possibly afford this seat for mere leisure. Keanu met his gaze again, a flicker of weariness entering his own eyes. Why did people feel the need to do this? To judge, to categorize, to assert superiority based on superficialities? "The world is full of surprises, Mr. Finch, Arthur Finch. International investment strategies," Finch supplied quickly, puffing his chest out slightly. Keanu nodded slowly. "Mr. Finch, indeed it is." Finch leaned in slightly, lowering his voice conspiratorially, though his condescending tone remained. "Look, no offense meant, mate, but you just don't have the... Look, you know? For this cabin, usually it's suits, designer labels, people who've earned their spot up here. It's just an observation." Keanu considered this, the audacity, the casual cruelty hidden behind a veneer of no offense. "And what look is required for first class, Mr. Finch?" he asked quietly. "Is there a dress code I missed?" Finch waved a dismissive hand. Not a written code, obviously, but an understanding, a certain presentation. It shows respect for the airline, for the other passengers, for oneself. Keanu thought about this. Respect. Was respect shown through expensive fabrics or through how one treated the person sitting next to them, regardless of their clothes? "I believe I am being respectful," Keanu stated simply. "I am quiet. I am keeping to myself. My clothes are clean." Finch shifted uncomfortably. This wasn't going as planned. The man wasn't getting defensive or intimidated. "Perhaps," Keanu continued, his voice still calm but carrying a new edge of philosophical inquiry, "true respect isn't about conforming to an external standard of presentation, but about recognizing the inherent value in every individual, regardless of their appearance." Finch scoffed. "Oh, please, spare me the dime store philosophy. This is the real world. Image matters. Success has a look." "Does it?" Keanu countered gently. "Or do we project onto others what we want or fear within ourselves? Sometimes the most successful people I've known are the ones least concerned with projecting an image." He paused, letting the thought settle. "What line of work are you in, if you don't mind me asking?" Finch asked, trying to regain control by putting Keanu on the spot. "I work in film," Keanu replied simply. Finch's eyes lit up with faux understanding. "Ah, film. Knew it. Behind the scenes, I suppose. Lighting? Sound guy? Or maybe catering? Important jobs, very important, but hardly first class usually, eh?" He chuckled. "Something like that," Keanu said, a flicker of amusement in his eyes that Finch completely missed. Finch leaned back, satisfied. He had categorized the man. A crew member, probably got upgraded using points or airline connections. Definitely didn't belong here in the same way he did. "Well," Finch said patronizingly, "enjoy the free champagne while it lasts, mate. Not every day someone like you gets to experience this." Keanu just looked at him. He didn't need to respond. The silence itself, his calm, unwavering gaze, seemed to unnerve Finch more than any argument would have. Finch shifted in his seat again. Why wasn't this guy reacting? Why wasn't he intimidated or defensive? Keanu simply picked up his book again, effectively dismissing Finch. But Finch couldn't let it go. His ego was bruised. You know, Finch said, leaning towards Keanu again, his voice taking on a sharper edge. People like you might get lucky sometimes, get a taste of the good life, but you'll never truly understand it. You can sit in this seat, but you'll never really belong here. Some circles are exclusive for a reason. This time the insult was direct, personal, and laced with undeniable classism. Keanu slowly lowered his book. He turned his head and looked directly at Arthur Finch. There was no anger in his eyes, but a profound sadness, a deep weariness. Mr. Finch, he said, his voice still quiet but resonating with a sudden, unexpected authority. Why do you feel the need to do this? To diminish someone else to feel better about yourself? Finch was taken aback. I'm just stating facts. Are you? Keanu asked. Or are you projecting your own insecurities? Perhaps the emptiness you mentioned isn't about what people don't have, but about what the people who do have sometimes lack inside. He held Finch's gaze. What truly defines belonging, Mr. Finch? The price of your ticket? The label on your suit? Or something deeper? Something about how you connect or fail to connect with the person sitting right next to you? Finch was speechless. Keanu's words, delivered so calmly, had cut through his arrogance like a knife. He felt exposed, vulnerable. His face flushed crimson. He looked around, suddenly aware that the passengers nearby, who had been pretending not to listen, were now looking at him with expressions ranging from disapproval to outright disdain. He had made a fool of himself. Just as he was struggling for a retort, flight attendant Sophie arrived, holding a flight manifest printout or a tablet. She stopped beside their seats, looking primarily at Keanu, but speaking clearly. Excuse me, Mr. Reeves, she said politely, her voice carrying in the now quiet cabin. Captain Miller asked me to confirm your connecting flight details upon arrival in London, and to inquire if you require ground assistance or expedited passage through customs, given your schedule. Reeves? Arthur Finch breathed the name, his eyes wide with shock, finally making the connection. Keanu Reeves? He stared at the man beside him. The simple clothes, the calm demeanor, now suddenly recontextualized. The world-famous actor, the icon, the man he had spent the last hour condescending to. Sophie nodded briefly to Keanu, waiting for his response. Keanu simply said, "No, thank you, Sophie." "Everything is handled," Sophie smiled. "Very good, Mr. Reeves. Please let us know if anything changes." She discreetly moved away. Finch felt the blood drain from his face. He wanted the ground to swallow him up. He turned to Keanu, stammering, "Mr. Reeves, I had absolutely no idea. Please forgive me. What I said, I was just making conversation. I didn't mean, if I had known who you were." Keanu looked at him, not with anger, but with that same quiet, searching sadness. "But that's the point, isn't it, Mr. Finch?" Keanu said softly, yet every word landed with precision. "It shouldn't matter who I am. Your behavior, the way you spoke to me, the assumptions you made, they shouldn't change based on my name or profession. Respect shouldn't require a resume, should it? It should be fundamental." He paused. "Everyone deserves basic kindness. The person serving your coffee, the person cleaning your office, the person sitting next to you on a plane, regardless of how they are dressed." Keanu didn't raise his voice, didn't gloat. He simply stated a truth. He then picked up his book again, a clear signal that the conversation and the lesson was over. Arthur Finch sank back into his seat, utterly mortified. He could feel the eyes of the other passengers on him. He wanted to disappear. He spent the rest of the long flight in silence, replaying every arrogant word, every condescending smirk, contrasting it with Keanu's quiet dignity and profound simple wisdom. He thought about his own life, his constant need for validation through status and wealth. Keanu's words echoed, "Sometimes the people who talk the most about what they have are the ones who feel the emptiest inside." Was that him? When the plane landed in London, Finch waited awkwardly for Keanu to gather his things. Mr. Reeves, he began again, his voice low and genuinely contrite this time. I just want to reiterate, I am deeply sorry for my appalling behavior. You were absolutely right. There's no excuse. Keanu paused at the aisle, looked at him directly for a moment. Apology accepted, Mr. Finch, he said simply. What matters now is what you do with the lesson. He then offered a slight nod and moved towards the exit. Arthur Finch stayed in his seat for a long time after the other passengers had left, staring blankly ahead. He felt stripped bare, his carefully constructed facade shattered. Later, walking through the terminal towards baggage claim, he saw Keanu Reeves surrounded by a small group of fans and airport staff. Keanu wasn't rushing, wasn't annoyed. He was listening patiently to a starstruck teenager, signing an autograph for another, posing kindly for a photo with a group of flight attendants, thanking them for their work. There was no arrogance, no impatience, just a quiet grace and genuine warmth. Finch watched from a distance, a profound sense of shame washing over him. He had judged this man based on the most superficial criteria, while Keanu had treated him, even at his worst, with a respect Finch himself had failed to show. That encounter on the plane became a turning point for Arthur Finch. It didn't magically transform him overnight, but it planted a seed of doubt about the values he had lived by. He started observing people differently, questioning his own quick judgments, thinking more about respect and less about status. He still wore expensive suits, but perhaps held the door open more often, perhaps listened more intently to the people who served him. It was a start. Keanu Reeves, meanwhile, continued his journey. The incident on the plane was just one small moment in a life filled with extraordinary encounters. But perhaps it reaffirmed something within him too. The importance of staying grounded, of treating everyone with baseline decency, of understanding that true worth has nothing to do with the clothes you wear or the seat you occupy. It's about the quiet strength, the empathy, the simple humanity you carry inside. And sometimes the most powerful statement isn't a loud proclamation, but a quiet refusal to let someone else's prejudice define your reality. This story shows how heavy silence can sometimes be, but also what a single voice or stance can change when confronting subtle prejudice masked as rules. Have you ever felt judged for a personal belief or expression, or felt that a rule was actually masking prejudice? Let's respectfully discuss these sensitive topics and moments of awareness in the comments. If you enjoyed this thought-provoking story, support us in sharing more in-depth stories by liking, sharing, and subscribing.